want an interlude with Mr. Clean. I want to find him in my kitchen with his big, strong arms and his spotless white shirt. Call me James, he'll say, as I pour him a glass of Sauvignon Blanc. And he'll pull out a permanent black marker and write his name on the glass. What are you doing, I'll ask. When I'm around, there's a host of crafty possibilities, he'll say. And then he'll pull out his trusty white magic eraser and wipe the permanent marker away. And then he'll give me a spin. Open for me your oven door. James, I'll say, you don't mean that I will bring my legendary clean to your oven glass? Why, yes, Rosemary, I can lift grease buildup from hard to reach places. And then he'll give me a flex, the kitchen sink. Next, he'll swagger across the room. I'll swoon. James, I never knew you'd be so adept at sticky residue, he'll suggest, and I'll guide his hand to my faucet. Say goodbye to water spots, and he'll flash me a grin, his teeth glistening white as brand new backsplash tile, as unused linoleum, and we'll dance together across the sparkling floor, our sponges in hand, drawn to whatever's dirty, and the room will smell of meadows and bleach and rain. And darling, he'll say, don't you think it's time you took me to the bath?
One. Dearblanca, on this postcard we see you from the north. The clouds have saddled up on your high ridges where for a while they will stay until they realize you're not going anywhere. Then they'll get restless. One of them will say something like, hey, I'm gonna get me a ride on the wind and head out to the prairie, maybe see what Dodge City ain't got. Others will follow. Clouds roll like that. 2. Dearblanca, this postcard pictures you as photographed by the Wheeler survey. They were the first Anglos to climb your summit, although there are some who dispute that claim. Certainly they were the first ones to gather data for a good map. If they did make the summit, we know they weren't the very first. Someone, a hunter perhaps, or a lookout, had already made a wall of stone up there, maybe for shelter, maybe for protection, maybe to render themselves invisible to their prey. Who knows? You do. Dearblanca, the photo on this postcard must have been taken somewhere up in the South San Juans looking east. Your looming presence shines underneath a cloudless summer sky. It is not hard to imagine from this vantage point how you would have made a huge impression on the native people who came over these mountains and into this valley from the west. No wonder you found a way onto their maps of the sacred. They say first man and first woman brought you up from the underworld and fastened you to this ground with rainbows and lightning bolts. We are reminded of this in July when our rains usually come. By the way, the part of the story that talks about soil from the underworld, now some biologists are saying that the first life forms on the planet, microorganisms of some kind, emerged from the underground. But you already knew that. Dearblanca, this postcard shows some mountaineers approaching you from Lake Como. Sure, the clouds get restless, but it is not true that you never move. People who know their rocks tell us you are young and still growing, though not enough for most of us to notice. But when we are climbing your talus, we realize you are anything but sedentary. We take 2 steps up and you take 1 step back. Sometimes we think we are closing in on your summit, but then we lose sight of it. The next time we see it, that part of you is not where we thought it was. Is your summit trying to avoid us?
I scream and am answered by cause. Here in this world where only ice moves, she flies below cloud cover like a bow that has outgrown string. Raven knows herself too well to pity me. She swallows my scream like a journey. Tornado without a mask dances around a fire. Broken bits sail into night as charcoal, like pieces of room returning.
There were never any antelope, but we like it when things are familiar. Antelope is a wastebasket taxonomy, a catch-all, but we are talking about pronghorn, the North American giraffe. You took me to Wyoming and I had never seen them before, the pretty paint and mascara, how they float over barbed wire, out in the rabbit brush, out past the oxbows with no need for us. I thought then that the antelope were extinct, but then I'd seen herds of buffalo fenced in on high altitude ranches. It all feels too Oregon Trail sometimes, too thin, poetry painted over manifest destiny, where seldom is heard a discouraging word once you are alone with the ghosts of your dead. And in the 30s they had died down, but right now there should be 1 million hearts beating, 2 million black lashes lowering to sleep in the brush. But there's something about the big sky that gives people the permission of their God. There is something about the uncloudy blue that gets conflated with the conscience, where holes are easy to dig and the sun bleaches bad blood.
One, stepping out of the car at the Comfort Inn, we watched my Mormon father cross the parking lot. A, each man grew a comb in the closing distance. B, palm to palm with a black man, Dad looked up. C, suspicions about my partner's name confirmed. D, one neck throbbed harder. E, all or none of the above. 2, in Maverick's country grill over roast and mashed potatoes, Dad called Dorel a big boy. A, boy of course meant youth and welcome, son. B, his mother's grandfather's will bequeathed a man to a man. C, his wife didn't kick him under the table. D, Dorel held my father's eyes and smiled outside of time. E, all or none of the above. 3, when we sat in the dim hotel room lit by the screen of perpetual John Wayne Westerns, my father and I, surprised, choked up in patriotic pride. A, which America made him cry? B, did he notice our fingers laced with Dorel's like keys? C, America the beautiful rang from our palms. D, he didn't know he would stop his monthly phone call. E, all or none of the above.
So there I was, pushing a wheelbarrow up a hill, thinking a little about Sisyphus, a little about the glazed rainwater, a little about Monty Python rounding up the not yet dead. And I wondered, what do others think about when pushing a wheelbarrow up a hill? ramming into a rock and nearly spilling into the wheelbarrow, I've come to believe most people are likely concentrating on the fucking wheel.
I will not die right here.